Ross, you made more in one day in 2021 than you've made this entire year. Why don't you step up to the plate? This is a great question. Many of you guys have seen the episode I uploaded. It was a live trading archive of making $185,000 in 3 hours trading GameStop, and that was in 2021. That was a different time. We had not just incredible volatility, we had incredible volume, which allowed traders like myself with big accounts to take really large positions. I was able to get in and get out with no problem. This year, we have volatility, but what we don't have is the liquidity. So we're seeing these moves, but they're on lighter volume, the spreads are bigger, and it's really risky to take large positions. So the fact is, it's important for beginner traders to realize not every year is going to get progressively better and better and better. Some years are a little slower due to overall market conditions, and right now this year is slower, but it's still a green year. But here's the problem, and this is a problem that's not exclusive to beginner traders. It's a problem that I face as well. And so we're going to talk about in today's episode. Number one, how do we accept the reality of trading in a colder market? Number two, I want to bust the myth that you can't make money in a cold market, because that's not been true for me. I don't believe it's true. Number three, I want to teach you some tips and tricks to weathering the storm. That's the goal for this episode right here today. Let's start with number one. How do we accept the new reality? How do you go from making $185,000 in one day to having $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 days? Does it feel that these green days are so small, so insignificant? What is even the point? Now, I understand if you are a new trader, a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 day could be astronomical. That could be life-changing. But for someone who's gone through the really hot market and pulled nearly, I turned $600 into over $10 million during this 2017 to 2023, window. And right now we're on the backside of that window. So you could say, look, Ross, you've made your money. Why even show up in this kind of market? You know what? I'm like the god dang mailman. I show up, rain or shine, because I want to participate in the market. I enjoy trading. This is something that, while of course it's difficult, and I'll preface as always, I'll say now, my results are not typical. This is something that I enjoy. Yes, it's frustrating, but it's a puzzle, and the frustration makes it that much more gratifying when you solve it. So how do I accept the new reality? Well, first of all, as my green days and green months have sort of gotten smaller and smaller as we've gotten into this bear market and into this colder market, I have just naturally kind of tuned myself to reduce expectations. I just say, you know what? This is a time where I've got to keep my head down. I can't put my neck on the line and take a really high-risk position on something. I'm going to get smoked. Now, I did that a few times. I had a few losses, and I reflected on them. This is super important. You look at those big losses that you have. You look at what's different about them. Did you hold too long? Was the size too big? Were you being too aggressive? And you learn from those mistakes. Within your losses are lessons. So I turned those losses early on in the bear market into lessons, and that taught me to reduce my share size. So about a year ago, I reduced my share size from no cap whatsoever. I was taking 30, 40, 50,000 shares, sometimes more. I reduced it to 10,000 shares. And I traded with that smaller share size for a month, and that for me was what I needed to kind of like clean the slate. And at the end of that month, I did increase my share size a little bit, but for the most part, for the last year, I've been trading pretty comfortably between 6,000 and 12,000 shares on most of my trades. I'm not trying to swing for the fences. I'm not trying to be aggressive. Right now, this is the market to just keep your head above water. And when you look back, you realize, wow, in the last year, I'm not just keeping my head above water, I'm actually making money. Have I made less than I made in one day during the crazy hot market? Sure. If you want to put it like that and think of it like that, you certainly can. That's like looking at the cup half empty. I'd rather look at the cup half full. I've got some profit, and I'm continuing to trade every single day, and I'm continuing to gain experience. And that means the next time the market starts to heat up, whether it's for a month or for a year, I'll be ready to capitalize on those opportunities. This is the reality. If you're not here, you won't be able to capitalize. So if you're a trader who says, I'm just going to take the whole summer off, I'm going to take the next 6 months off, not only are you going to miss a lot of opportunity, you're going to get rusty and you're going to kind of lose your touch. This is a performance sport, and you need to be practicing. It's not just about game time. You need to be practicing. And I practice every day I show up, even on days that end up being no trade days. Now let me bust the myth that you can't make money in a cold market. Number 2, trading in a cold market can be profitable as long as you understand a few basic things. You have to understand, number 1, the conditions of the market. This is a cold market. This isn't the time to add to your position and try to swing for home runs because you're going to strike out. This is the time that you're just keeping your head above water. You're trying to gain a little bit of ground. And you know what I find really interesting? A hot market, in a way, is the worst time to trade a small account or to be a beginner trader because you're going to leave so much profit on the table by not being able to fully capitalize on the opportunity because of your lack of skill, intuition, and because of a smaller account size. A cold market provides base hits more consistently. Just that's because you don't get home runs, but you get base hits. And as a beginner trader, as a small account trader, you want to be focusing on base hits. So in a way, a cold market is just as good, perhaps even better for a beginner trader. And the reason it might be better is because it's going to force you to be a disciplined trader. In a hot market, a beginner trader can get away with making some mistakes. The market's forgiving, but that can teach you some really bad habits. Bad habits that when the cold market does come around, because the markets are cyclical and it will happen eventually, well, those could end up costing you a lot of money because you got overconfident during a hot market. So again, think of the glass half full or half empty as you'd like, but I see some real benefits to learning to trade in a cold market. And I have proven in my years of trading that even through a bear market, even through a recession, even through a market drawdown, I can still find opportunity. Opportunity, even if it's just for base hits, that's enough to keep myself not just, head above water, but actually making some progress. And number 3, let's talk about how to weather the storm. This is the time to keep your head down. I was saying to my son, to make a long story short, we were going to the grocery store and he asked if he could get some candy. And I said, well, do you have some, of your allowance? You could buy some. He said, yes, I do. And I said, okay, well, just make sure you save some. And he said, well, what do you mean save some? And I said, my mom really taught me maybe a little too well about saving. He said, what does that mean? I said, well, son, what does a chipmunk have to do to get ready for winter? What does he have to save? And he said, acorns. I said, that's right. He has to save acorns. But how does a chipmunk know how many acorns he has to save? That is a good question, because a chipmunk does not know how long winter will be. It could be a long winter, i.e. it could be a long cold stretch, or it may be a very mild winter, very short winter. And ultimately, if a chipmunk runs out of acorns or is finishing his last acorn, he has failed to plan properly. So my belief is that expect the worst, plan for the worst, hope for the best. All right. I don't know. I wouldn't say expect. Plan for the worst, hope for the best. So plan that we may be in a cold market for another 6 months or for another year, but that's okay as long as you've dialed in your strategy for just chipping away at those base hits. There's something about going through the pandemic that I felt in a way that I'd been preparing for that my whole life. Having been raised in a family that still, in the 1990s when I was growing up, was still talking about the Great Depression, right? They were still talking about it. They still talk about it today. It had that profound an effect on my family. So I grew up kind of always thinking, you never know, save for a rainy day. A penny saved is a dollar earned. And when it comes to trading, you've got to really think about letting those gains tide you over when it's cold. So don't adjust your cost of living to a hot market, because then when it gets cold, you're going to create desperation, stress, and undue pressure. It's not worth it. Instead, save that money for a rainy day. That is the best thing you can do. And live within your means as much as you can, because there will be ups and downs, not just in the market, but in life. I hope you have found this episode helpful. If you have, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. It makes a huge difference. And if you want to check out a couple other episodes that I've recently uploaded that you might enjoy, I'll put links to them right up here. And in fact, I'll put one link to the episode where I made $185,000 in 3 hours. Wow. I don't watch it myself at this point because it's just like, It's so crazy. It was a different market. But I'll tell you, in those moments, it was flow state. I was in the zone. And I know when those opportunities present again, I will be ready to step up to the plate and maximize on them. And that's because every day that I show up, I'm practicing for the big game. I hope you practice too, and I'll see you for the next episode.